Well, good morning. Here we are back, I believe, in the normal location. Yesterday I had some difficulty posting in the Facebook in general. I was blocked and not allowed to post on my page or group. So not sure what that was about, but I'm glad to be here this morning and we're going to continue on. If that ever happens again, I do post in YouTube then and try to vicariously post it. So I'm just grateful His mercies are new each and every morning, and here we are, right? So today we're looking at Genesis chapters 9 through 12. And so last week we left off at the end of our reading with the story of Noah and how God gave him a promise. I want to read that just to remind us. In Genesis 8:21, I will never again curse the ground because of human beings, even though the inclination of the human heart is evil from youth onward. I will never again strike down every living thing as I have done, as long as the earth endures seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night will not cease. So a few nights ago, my husband got this wild hair idea. He said, let's watch the movie Noah with Russell Crowe, and let's do a biblical analysis at the end of that. So we had heard that this rendition of Noah wasn't so biblical. And I'm like, why would you want to watch that? But he's like, let's see it. Let's see it for ourselves. What was wrong about it? And so if you've ever done anything like that, where you afterwards, we just read the account of Noah and sought to understand where the difference was. It was really kind of fascinating. You know, at the end of the movie, like, you hated the character Noah because he had taken God's judgment into his own hands and felt like it was then his job to make sure that no one multiplied because God had judged man. So I'm just thankful that God is who God is. I'm thankful that He's given us His precious word that we can run to understand His purposes in this life. We don't have to go to movies or other things to try to get, or man, to try to get understanding. And so our God is awesome. And He gives us a rainbow in the clouds, not for any cause, but just His incredible covenant. A covenant with a righteous God with an unrighteous people. Wow. So in Genesis 10, we see the genealogy of Noah's sons. In Genesis 11, we see the Tower of Babylon. There in a valley, a bunch of people gathered and were like, hey, let's build a city and make a name for ourselves. And God was like, I don't think so. So He saw that with one language they were capable of great sin. And so in Genesis 11:7, it says, come, let's, plural, triune God, go down there and confuse their language so they will not understand one another's speech. So I have to tell you, I see that God has a sense of humor here, because in Genesis 11:9, it says, therefore it is called Babylon, for there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. Come on, people. Babble on. I just think that's funny. Anyway, so Noah's son Shem was an ancestor of a Bible character we get introduced to today. And his name is, anyone know? Abraham. Which brings me to the verse of the day, Genesis 12:2. This is the account of the call of God on Abraham's life. First, God tells him to go. Leave everything you know and go. And we all know if we know the story of Abraham, that he was obedient right away. Yep, God says it, I'm going to do it. And then He shares the blessings that will come from that obedience. It says in Genesis 12:2, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. Now, Abraham already knew at this point that Sarai, that was her name at the beginning there, was barren. All he had was God's promise to go on. And he went. He trusted God and he was blessed for it. I think sometimes we can hear God speak, and maybe we're a little bit like Gideon. It's not all bad. You know, we want confirmation from God, but sometimes we're not trusting Him. And here's Abraham trusting in God when his wife is barren and all he's known. This is a brand new deal here. You know, he lived in a land where there were many gods. This is one God calling Abraham. And if we look at the blessings of God and Abraham, these blessings were things that God chose to give. They weren't demanded. God's promises don't always happen in our timing either, do they? Sometimes you just believe God's doing something, you're hoping for something, or maybe you're looking at his promises in Scripture and clinging to those, and it just seems like it's never going to happen. But we know who God is. We know his character. We know that he's the God of Abraham. He's the God who fulfills every single one of his promises. And so, like Abraham, we can choose to trust in our God. And I think sometimes we want these blessings to ourselves. But you know, any fame, any blessing belongs to God. It is for his purposes that, you know, whenever anything happens in our life that's a blessing to us, that we offer it back up to him, that we seek to be used to help others know him. That's the purpose of it. So today, look at what God has done with his promise. Christians are grafted into the faith because of God's call on Abraham. All nations were impacted from one man that God set his favor upon. Today, if we're honest, we can tend to worry about popularity and acceptance from man. How many likes do we have? Are people following? But these things are vain. And any favor that God gives us is for his purposes, his glory, not ours. Even the disciples thought that Jesus should do something to spread his fame. If we look at, I'm going to read to you from John 7, verse 4. They told Jesus, "No one who wants to become a public figure acts in secret. Since you're doing these things, show yourself to the world." But Jesus knew fickle man's heart. He also knew it wasn't his time yet. I wonder if we can be so patient as to trust God when it seems like he's not doing anything in our lives, to know that he is at work, to know that his plan is unfolding in his perfect time. Abraham set such a great example with that. We need patience, don't we? And humility, and sweet trust that God knows what he is doing. We don't need to pursue spreading our message, but his. Otherwise, we might end up like the Babylon people. Babylon and on. Well, guys, I hope that you've seen the blessing God had for Abraham extends to us today. And when you have blessings in your life, I pray that you will use them for God's glory. It's not just a religious phrase. It means we recognize that everything we have is from him and for him, and that others can see that blessing and know him too. Guys, it's good to be back here today, and I just pray blessings for you as you seek God. Keep in his word, friends. Take care. God bless.